So here in 2020, we have more things that take us by surprise than any other point in recent memory. Case in point is the fact that both presidential candidates have released plans for Indian country, and normally the administrations running for president never do that kind of thing. They don't really take the time out to talk to indigenous groups. So yeah, who would have thought, right? I went to nativenewsonline.net and pulled up an article by Levi Rickert. It's called Trump versus Biden. Here's how their plans for Indian country compare. I know that you know how to read, and I didn't have to read that for you, but I digress. So the Trump administration's plan is called Putting America's First Peoples First, Forgotten No More. It doesn't spell anything out. I don't know. It says and the Biden campaigns is the Biden-Harris plan for tribal nations, which is okay. I really wish that they used acronyms that spelled out words, because I kind of like that, and it's really hard to talk about these particular plans and not have a pneumatic device for it. So the Biden-Harris plan for tribal nations was 15 pages long, and you can go and read that on your own on their website. The president's plan was 3 pages long, and you can also go read that on its website. The Biden-Harris plan was released 12 days, I think it was, more before the Trump campaigns was. They both carry similar things in them. So you have Indigenous American education, you have broadband coverage, which is actually a really good thing because there's a lot of people out on reservations and in other areas that don't have access to high-speed internet. And we all know that in 2020, it's almost a required utility in order to get anything done. They both also obviously talk about MMIW, the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls Crisis. The White House takes credit for congressional legislation that the president signed off on, as if he authored the bills he put his signature on. I talked about that earlier. The executive branch executes the law. The legislative branch writes the law. It's Civics 101. Yes, 12 days. I was right. It commits the Biden-Harris plan commits to immediately reinstating the annual White House Nations Conference that was established during the Obama era and was convened for the 8 years the administration was in office. So they used to get together once a year, a bunch of representatives of different tribes here in the United States, and discuss the things that were happening that were important to these tribes and their communities. They presented President Obama with the robe in the last year, etc. One of the first things that happened in this administration in 2017 is that they did away with this. They no longer have any of these types of meetings. So the Biden-Harris plan promised to reinstate those, and considering the fact that Joe Biden was the vice president at the time of the Obama administration, I believe that they're going to be doing that. So that's not questionable to me. In the White House plan, the Trump-Pence administration agrees to host national tribal leader convening and establish a national week of consultation. While this commitment was mentioned in the plan, there are no details about what the convening would actually look like. And that's understandable because it's kind of hard to pack a whole bunch of detail into 3 pages. I mean, maybe you can use both sides. I don't know. One key component in the Biden-Harris plan that does not appear in the Trump-Pence plan is that under a Biden presidency, Native Americans would be appointed to high-level federal government positions, a feature that was part of the Obama-Biden administration. And we can see this a lot with the people that he's already decided were going to be part of his administration. Speaking of Joe Biden in particular. While the White House plan is much shorter, there are comparisons that can be made between the two documents. Here are how the two plans compared. So, tribal sovereignty. The Trump administration is committed to respecting tribal sovereignty and will continue to empower Native American communities with the resources they need to promote self-determination. I wonder how that is with the Mashpee. They'll support the formation of a blue ribbon commission to explore avenues to cut and reform taxation of tribal citizens. They'll respect tribal sovereignty by empowering tribes to manage their own land and resources through self-governance programs. I wonder how that's happening in Oklahoma with the EPA. Joe Biden understands that tribal sovereignty and self-governance, as well as honoring the federal trust responsibility to tribal nations, should be the cornerstones of federal Indian policy. As president, Biden will build on the efforts of the Obama-Biden administration, which were instrumental in rebuilding trust, good faith, and respect for the tribal-federal relationship. Let's state that it took a while for them to step out and to help the water protectors, so I'm not trying to say that this is a squeaky clean situation. Biden will ensure tribes have a seat at the table at the highest levels of the federal government and a voice throughout the government. So here we go with safe communities. President Trump is committed to increasing public safety in Indian country, particularly by continuing to find solutions to long-standing challenges like missing and murdered Native Americans and the opioid and meth crises. So he signed an executive order that created a commission to work on the MMIW stuff. I'm not really sure how much success they've had at this time. I think it's just one commission. And they also are working on the opioid and meth crises. I'm not going to deny any of that. So Biden is going to ensure that the federal law enforcement prioritizes public safety in Indian country with engagement from tribal communities. Direct the U.S. Department of Justice to fully investigate the epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women and children. I'm going to pause here and state, if you look up the Violence Against Women Act, that is part of the legislation that Biden co-sponsored when he was in Congress. He's going to expand federal resources for prevention and survivor support initiatives for Native women and girls. Biden has laid out a comprehensive plan to expand resources for prevention and survivor support initiatives, ranging from supports like a stronger safety net for survivors, including housing and cash assistance, to the expansion of advocates and access to lawyers so survivors can get the justice they deserve. Whew. He's going to support addiction treatment, mental health services, and trauma recovery to break the cycles of crime and victimization. Renew the commitment to healing and supportive services in Native communities by increasing the availability of addiction treatment, mental health, and trauma recovery services. So what they do, what they're doing here is they're kind of showing the differences in how a 15-page line-by-line plan looks versus a 3-page brochure. Okay, I'm going to leave a link in the description down below for you to actually see this article and see what the two administrations are promising Indigenous people, if that's what you're interested in. I don't believe anything until I see it. So this government really does not have a positive history in regards to how they've treated Indigenous people. I'm not really caring if it's Joe Biden or Donald Trump when I'm stating this. I want to see whomever becomes our next president, whether that's Donald Trump for 4 more years or Joe Biden as 46. I want to see them actually go through with their promises to Indian country. We are tired of hearing false promises. It's time to act. It's time to step up and make us feel like we are part of this country too. And make us feel like our struggles are just as important to you as they are to us, because you are the leadership that we look toward. We are one community. Okay? Thank you very much if you've stuck around this long. I appreciate it. I got a little long-winded. I apologize. If you like this type of content, please remember to hit the subscribe button down below. It goes a long way to helping us out with the metrics that YouTube looks for in order to monetize us. And I'd like to expand what I'm doing here. If you really like what we're doing here, then please check out Oh Just Talk with Vonda and Lydia featuring Sean. We discuss whatever happens to come to mind. It's a really good back and forth. Three friends just talking about a variety of topics, everything from QAnon to dating advice. They haven't invited me to any of those, and that's very wise, I guess. But it's a fun time. So if you like that kind of stuff, check them out. I'll leave a link to Oh Just Talk. I'm happy to be part of that group now and hope that you like it as well. Lepichka Nawe, I will see you again.